Talking about the healing properties of sound are going to be Jonathan and Andy Goldman with their new book, Cosmic Hum. That'll be Thursday, January 30th. Just turn off your cell phones or anything that might cause a disturbance during the talk at this time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the authors. So Jules and Joe met nearly a decade ago as a result for having common passions and nutrition and yoga. They've led several workshops here in Boulder, and they wanted to bring together yoga and mindful eating, so they developed the Conscious Cleanse. So Jules and Joe created the Conscious Cleanse by pulling from their own personal journeys. They spent time individually as health coaches, decades of studying yoga, personal development, and nutrition. And although they talk about food, weight loss, and cleansing, what really lights them up is helping people to improve their life. Their mission is to create programs that help people feel good in their body, that can connect to a deeper place within themselves, so you can start to access your truer self, or your, that spirit that kind of rises up when you have everything lined up. Joe was a champion gymnast, a nationally ranked diver, and a diving coach. She preparing to enter medical school when her life took a dramatic and unexpected turn. She was on a cross-country bike trip in 2004 and got into a bad accident. The physical and emotionally grueling recovery process ultimately led her to the wondrous healing benefits of clean eating, which is one of the foundations of the Conscious Cleanse. Joe's graduated with honors from Grinnell College and has been mentored as a yoga instructor by Anna Force and Dr. Theron Randolph, and done master's level work at the Nutrition Therapy Institute. In addition to teaching at national workshops, Joe's passion is to help people who think healing is out of their reach through yoga and nutrition coaching. She lives here in Boulder. Julie Pelayath has spent years of personal development and study and learning daily yoga, not to mention plenty of blunders, which is one of the ways we all learn. And this is what's led her to where she is today. She's grateful to bring her passion for health, raw food, and personal transformation, and the work she does to Conscious Cleanse. Her intention is to inspire people to journey inward, to discover their truth in service of living a purpose-driven life. She strongly believes in the power of intention and our ability to manifest our wildest dreams. So please welcome to the bookstore, Joe Shulman and Julie Pelayath.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you to Christian and the Boulder Bookstore for having us. It's great to see some familiar faces and also some new faces. So in case it's not clear, I'm Jules. This is Joe. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the Conscious Cleanse came to be, a little bit about our personal journeys and our story. Then we'll do a Q&A and we'll sign some books. So that's kind of the plan for the next half hour, 45 minutes. So again, thanks for being here.
So I'm going to start with my story tonight, because a lot of what we've been through has informed the Conscious Cleanse and what this book is really about. So from a very early age, I can remember wanting to be a doctor. I loved anything gory, and I loved pulling teeth, which my sister and the second Earl will probably tell you. I really liked anything about the human body, and so when I went to high school, I signed up for AP Bio because I could dissect, and later on went to college and became a bio major and did the pre-med thing. So I was very much set up to be a doctor. I took my MCATs, I interviewed for medical school, and before that big process of actually entering medical school, I decided that I would take a trip. It would be my last hurrah, and so I worked for an outdoor company doing something called the American Challenge, biking 3,000 miles across the country from Savannah, Georgia to LA. I had 12 kids in tow and one co-leader, and we biked our way across the country 6 days from the end of this trip. I ended up getting hit by a truck that was going 70 miles an hour. And I remember getting hit by the truck and not really understanding at the time how much it would change my life. But in that moment, I broke my back in 7 places. I ended up being in major chronic pain all the time. I gained about 30 pounds. And I became severely depressed. Because what happened was I couldn't end up living the life that I wanted to live. I couldn't become a doctor because I couldn't sit or stand or walk around the block or do any of the things that I had dreamed of doing from a very young age. And so I went looking for answers from the profession that I wanted to so badly be a part of. And what doctors could tell me, about 15 to 20 doctors actually said to me, "Jo, you will never live the life that you had once lived. You'll be in a severely disabled state, and what we can do for your pain is to give you Percocet, and what we can do for your depression is to give you Prozac." And so these two pills were going to run my life. And at that point, at that time, I wasn't willing to have two little pills run my life because I knew that I would be in a fog. I would be drugged. I felt drugged when I took these things, and I knew that this was not the life I wanted to live, but I wasn't sure what to do. So I spent years being really depressed and flopping and failing for a while until I met a woman named Anna Forrest who said to me, she looked at me in the eyes and she said to me, "Jo, you will heal." And it was amazing because I had had about 20 doctors look me in the eye and say, "Jo, you won't heal." And so to have some person believe in me was amazing. So it gave me this spark of hope that actually something could be different. And it gave me the idea that maybe I could go and find a pain-free life. So I started to take on healing like it was my job, and I remember calling my dad up, and I called my dad up and I said, "Dad, I'm going to the Jo Shulman School of Medicine." Well, there was no certificates or acknowledgments for it, It was what I decided to take on. So I was reading and I was studying, and I went to even nutrition school at one point. But I got hooked on the fact that if I could lose the 30 pounds that I had gained, that my life would be better. That would make me feel happier and I could live my normal life. So I started to do things, kind of got off track, and I tried shakes and pills and diets, prepackaged meals, and I counted my points. And none of that helped. I didn't feel better. And I almost lost no weight, which was kind of strange to me. So then I started to work my framework, and I thought, food has been my enemy for so long, so how can I make food my ally? And I looked at this concept of how food can be medicine. And about that same point, Julie was doing the same thing very independently. We were on these different paths, but we ended up intersecting in a very, I would say, poignant time in our lives when we were asking ourselves the same questions. And the question really that we've refined to be the core concept of the conscious cleanse is, how can I feel more vibrant? And this single question is what our company and our book has grown in today.
So we initially created the Conscious Cleanse to be just a workshop at a yoga studio here in Boulder. And it was just meant to be a one-off workshop. But after seeing and taking participants through the program and seeing the dramatic, oftentimes life-changing results, we thought maybe we struck on something. And we were living the Conscious Cleanse way. We were personally being our own experiment. And we were also experiencing really dramatic results. Personally, I felt lighter and brighter than I had in my entire life. It was like I really wanted to, maybe for the first time, be in this body. And I felt more accepting of myself. And Jo, I hadn't seen her for a few weeks, and it was like she had transformed. The whites of her eyes were brighter, her skin was more radiant, and she lost a puffiness about her, and her face is really where I noticed it. And she'll tell you the details of that.
Yeah.
She's okay with me calling her puffy.
I am.
We call it the puffy factor
We do call
in the
it
book.
puffy factor in the book. I actually, in 2 weeks, which was incredible, ended up, most importantly, going from a pain level of an 8 every single day all the time down to a pain level of a 5, which is significant when you're in chronic pain all the time. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and that kind of heavy depression that was weighing me down really started to lift. So we were kind of blown away by what had happened in a short period of time.
And if you look at us, obviously we're really different. And we actually laugh about how different we are. I mean, it's obvious, I'm tall, she's short, I'm brunette, she's blonde. The differences go on and on and on. We kind of say we're the yin and the yang and the odd couple because there's a lot. And it's actually kind of humorous at times. Even so much so that, we came from really different nutritional backgrounds, eating backgrounds. So I've been mostly a vegetarian for about 20 years, and Jo, at the time that we started this, she was eating meat about 3 times a day. She was someone who was like, I can't go without my chicken breast or my animal protein at every meal. And so we looked at our differences, and we both got similar results, but we were taking completely different approaches. And so that is one of the core foundations of the Conscious Cleanse, is that it's not based on a one-size-fits-all program. Meaning that whether you are a meat and potatoes eater, or someone who feels like they need animal protein several times a day, or an aspiring raw food vegan, there is a place for you here to create your own starting point and create a track that you can run on. So what is the Conscious Cleanse all about? It's really not rocket science. It's really based on going back to the basics. So we eat whole foods. We eat foods that exist in nature. And, in this day and age where, there are a lot of diet books out there, and there's a lot coming at us from the media. Nutrition science is a young science, and it's changing all the time. So it's natural that we're a little confused about what to eat. And it's conflicting, right? So one day you're supposed to do this, and it's good for you. The next day, not so much. So the Conscious Cleanse is really based on this idea that you should be an active investigator. So we're not here to be your nutrition gurus and to tell you should eat this, at this time and, get down to every single, bit and piece of what you should and shouldn't eat. But we're here to say, look at food, ask yourself if this food will nourish me, put it in your body, and then see how you feel. Because once you discover that for yourself, you own that. And you own that for the rest of your life, so you, in the future, can make an empowered choice based on that new information. We have a saying that we like to repeat. Some of our participants in the crowd have heard it plenty of times. We say, there's no wagon here. You can't do it wrong. You cannot fail. You come, you commit to doing it, you can't fall off the wagon because there's no wagon at all. This is your process. It's a journey. And it's our goal that we hold your hand and guide you through that process.
So, is there anybody out there who feels skeptical that a cleanse could change their life? You can raise their hand. Anybody? Not one person. Everybody thinks. Okay, thank you. So, could a cleanse really change your life? Could doing 2 weeks of this program really change your life? And I would say, hands down, yes. This could change your life because in 2 to 3 days, your skin gets brighter, the fog lifts, you start to feel good, and in 2 weeks, you're a different person. But also the answer is no, right? I'm going to be a little complicated here. So you could do the cleanse for 2 weeks, and at the end of 2 weeks, you go back to eating the way that you did before, and you start to feel the way you did before. So there is no magic bullet, which I tried to find. I tried to find the pills and the shakes and the things and pat my head, rub my stomach, and it would change my life, right? But the idea is that you have to be willing to do the work. And the work is about, like Julie said, putting food in your body and seeing how food makes you feel. And the radical part of the conscious cleanse is the conscious part of the conscious cleanse. It's noticing the small stuff. It's learning how to tune into your body again. And it's getting out of the fog of your old habits. I know I think about my routines, and in the morning, I want to get up at 6:30. I set my alarm for 6. I hit the snooze button 3 times. I go brush my teeth. I grab my lemon water, right? And the day goes on in a very predictable way. And what happens is when you live in a very predictable way is that oftentimes you start to get into a rut. And when you start to get into a rut, you start to go unconscious. And while routines are really important, it's also important that we can be aware of how we're living. Can you guys think for a moment, I'm sure all of us can, of a time in your life when you've lived very predictably, or you've done the same thing every day, or you think about your friend asks you, what did you do last week? And you're like, I don't know, right? I can't remember, because the days start to blend together. And so the conscious part is the conscious cleanse is the most important aspect. It's a willingness to step out of your comfort zone, to try something new, and to really put yourself first. And bottom line, it's waking up to life. That's your Kate's story. So what's really exciting about this program more than anything are our participants, and we're so happy that there are a lot of you here today. So here's a story from somebody on our cleanse, and it's called Waking Up to Life. Kate is a busy mother of two. When we first met her as a participant at one of our seminars, she was juggling a demanding full-time job with the responsibilities at home, and fitting in time for herself is a last and often overlooked priority. She described herself as pretty normal and pretty happy. She told us she made time to exercise 2 or 3 times a week, often having to wake up at unseemly hours to do so. She tried to eat relatively a healthy diet, very rarely partaking in anything she considered an overindulgence. She wanted to try a cleanse for a while, she told us, but she kept finding reasons to put it off, mostly due to her schedule and responsibilities. The rush of getting herself ready for work and her kids ready for school in the morning often meant she didn't have time for breakfast other than a cup of coffee. She'd have another cup at work and often get so busy she wouldn't realize she hadn't eaten until 1 or 2 o'clock. At which time she'd grab something quick, always fighting the urge for a heavy carbohydrate fix, and winning the fight more often than not. Another cup of coffee or a few bites from the candy bowl in the office helped her get through the afternoon slump. Kate didn't suffer from any major health issues. She got migraine headaches from time to time, which she attributed to stress at work. She fought off colds all winter, which she attributed to having 2 kids in school. She had hay fever in the spring, which she attributed to the luck of the draw. She had a sore neck and back, which she attributed to natural aging, and sitting at a computer all day. She didn't consider herself fat by any stretch, but she had an extra 10 pounds she couldn't seem to shake after her second child's birth. So this is what Kate says. I stopped missing my coffee after the first week, and I loved my coffee. I wasn't tired at the end of the workday, or at least the tired I felt different. I started sleeping more deeply than I had in years, and waking up more refreshed. Toward the end of the cleanse, I realized I hadn't had a headache in a while, that my constantly stuffy nose was totally unobstructed. My neck stopped aching. I rediscovered my libido, which got my husband's attention. He actually ended up doing the cleanse with me. Not to mention the weight loss, which just seemed effortless. It seemed corny to admit, but I suddenly felt awake.
So, clearly from hearing Kate's story, we know that something amazing, truly amazing, happens when you cleanse the body. I always like to think of a car analogy. And it's actually kind of a sad fact that a lot of us change the oil in our cars way more often than we ever cleanse our bodies. We're just not really taught about cleansing so much. And if you think about the last time you changed the oil in your car, didn't it run a little bit better? Probably got better mileage, gas mileage, and it maybe had a little bit better pickup. Cleansing the body is kind of like that. So the result when we cleanse physically is that you give your digestive system a rest. And when you can rest your digestive system, you free up space and you free up energy. Because experts agree that up to 80% of the body's energy goes toward digestion. So think about that. 80% of your energy after you have a meal goes to work out, digesting your food, breaking it down, assimilating it, and sending it through the appropriate channels. So isn't it any wonder that when you have a huge decadent meal, you just want to go to sleep? I like to tell the story, but when I was a kid, I literally fell asleep under the table after a Thanksgiving dinner. Literally fell asleep, woke up, was like, where am I? And what just happened? So the conscious cleanse really is based on very simple eating combinations. So we say steer towards eating in very simple combinations, food combinations that are easy for your body to digest and absorb and use the food and know what to do with it. And again, we're eating real food, so the digestive system doesn't have to work on overdrive. So just imagine what you would do with even half of that extra energy, 40% more energy. It's amazing, right? 40% more energy. The other systems in your body are like, yes, right? So your other organs get to rest and detox and cleanse. And the result is that, like we talked about, your skin gets brighter, your hair and nails get shinier and healthier and stronger. You have more mental clarity. The biggest part that I love so much is that you have a keener sense of intuition. So there are all these amazing physical benefits. And then there's also the natural spillover effect. And that's that spontaneous urge to all of a sudden want to take care of the other areas of your life. So my husband can probably attest to all of a sudden me being up until midnight cleaning the basement, which has been like, a pain in my side for a very long time. All of a sudden I have this extra energy to take on a project like that. So you might have the spontaneous urge to clean out your car, clean out a junk drawer, finally clear out the inbox. And as you connect and you feel more cleansed in your body and then in your environment, you're more deeply connected to yourself, and then there's that natural urge to want to connect more deeply with the people in your life, your loved ones. Like you're having a more intimate relationship with your partner, your spouse. So we always say that, it's pretty awesome that you get these physical benefits and weight loss. Yes, it's great. But that natural spillover effect and the ripple effect that this process can have on your entire life, we say that that is what it's really all about, like Christian mentioned in our introduction.
So one of the key ways to access this kind of health is to look at allergens. And there's a shocking statistic that 90% of Americans have allergies or sensitivities, and 90% of those people have no idea that they have those allergies. And I want to say that again in a different way. 90% of Americans have food tolerances or sensitivities. And most of those people have no clue the food they're putting in their body actually relates to how they feel and into their health. So things from asthma, ADD, eczema, diabetes, headaches, migraines, heart disease, insomnia, low libido, depression, weight gain. So the list goes on. And I'm actually going to make a pretty bold statement here that this is the #1 health crisis in our country. Because what happens when we put allergens in our body, it causes inflammation. And inflammation causes disease. So you can see the correlation here, right? That allergens equals bad health or disease. And I remember I was a competitive gymnast for about 14 years and worked out 4 to 6 hours a day from the age of 8 years old. And I always felt like I was at battle with my weight even back then. It was kind of strange. I felt like how much I was working out, I definitely didn't take calories in to offset it. And I was puzzled, why was this happening? And years later, what happened was that when I took out the gluten and the dairy and the soy and the sugar and the caffeine, it was effortless to find my perfect health and my perfect body weight. So a lot of those, like quote unquote stubborn pounds that we can't get rid of, really are more connected to the types of foods we're putting in our body. It's not this calorie in, calorie out concept. And I know some people might be saying, I don't have an allergy, right? Are there anybody in here who's like, that's not me? Yes, yeah, good. So
that was me. When we were developing this program, I'm like, I don't have an allergy, this is great. But what we distinguish in our program is that there are allergies that we relate to, like, the little kid who has to carry an EpiPen because he's so severely allergic to peanuts or eggs. Or there's, that person who's going to sneeze for a month on end a certain time of year. Or it's hives and rashes and things like that. We think of these dramatic allergies. And the distinction that we make in our program is that we have allergies and we have sensitivities. And it's oftentimes the sensitivities that go unnoticed, because there's something that we can develop over time after a result of having the same food over and over and over again. So as I started to look at my diet, being a vegetarian for many years, I ate a lot of soy, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, eat a lot of, get my protein from soy. And so I was having a soy latte for breakfast. Well, maybe not for breakfast, but I would not go without a soy latte. I know someone in the crowd can attest to that. I was having, tofu on my salad for lunch, edamame for a snack, and, soy sauce at dinner. So I was having soy all throughout the day, not to mention that it was probably lurking in these so-called, health foods, some of the processed health foods. So when I took it out of my diet, my adult acne that was a problem for way too long in my life went away. I also had a puffiness factor that went away. And best of all, and my family can probably be the most grateful about this is that my digestive system calmed down. So it was remarkable, to say the least, to actually see that, oh, I had a sensitivity that probably I had developed over a period of time of having this in my diet. And we have a story, actually a pretty remarkable story that we'll read from our book about a woman who had a sensitivity, an undiagnosed sensitivity to gluten. So this is Marissa, the benefits of eliminating gluten. Marissa, 34, has completed the conscious cleanse twice and has been maintaining the 80-20 principle since her first cleanse a year ago. Marissa eliminated gluten and dairy completely and limited sugar and caffeine. After 10 years of visits to doctors, specialists, endocrinologists, acupuncturists, herbalists, and anyone else who would give her an appointment, Marissa's FSH levels were consistently in the premature menopause range. She was told she had ovarian failure and would not be able to get pregnant. After years of hopelessness, weight gain, emotional struggles, and intermittent periods, Marissa was resigned to the fact that she could not have babies. After her second cleanse, Marissa had her yearly FSH test, and her levels were in the normal range. Her test showed she was, in fact, ovulating normally and no longer in premature menopause. She now has consistent periods, normal weight, and balanced hormonal activity. She's now being told there's no obvious reason why she won't be able to conceive a child if she chooses to do so. As Marissa excitedly declares, quote, "I know without a doubt that my reawakening is directly related to eliminating gluten through eating the conscious cleanse way." So we hear stories about this, really life-changing stories about this over and over and over again in our programs. And this is, like Joe said, why we do what we do. And why you might be thinking, well, I could never give up fill in the blank. Maybe it's cheese, maybe it's that glass of wine every night, maybe it's the latte factor. It's just 2 weeks. And you can do anything for 2 weeks. And when you commit to a process like this, you really truly discover how powerful you are. And once you see the results on the other side of that initial commitment, that maybe couple minutes of, that endorphin rush that you get from eating, that food that maybe doesn't make you feel so good, that doesn't seem as appealing as the juicy, vibrant health and the benefits that you get.
At the beginning of our book, we actually say, you do not need another diet. If you're truly looking for a radical shift or transformation in your health, what you need is a new perspective or a new belief about yourself and your health. And that's really what Anna did for me. She looked at me and she said, "Joe, you will heal," and it gave me that hope. And so I went on to believe that I could heal, and I created this belief about myself. And this is what we hope to do for our participants in the Conscious Cleanse.
We like to say that vibrant health is not a destination. It's actually a choice that we make every single day, and we make it over and over and over again, multiple times a day. Joe and I don't accept this idea that, as we get older, you just develop aches and pains. Or, you hit a certain age, so, my metabolism's slowed down, so it's normal to put on an extra 10, 15, 20 pounds. In a world where type 2 diabetes and obesity and heart disease are the norm, and where over 200 million prescription drugs are written for cholesterol-lowering medication a year in our country, we say let's create a new normal where vibrancy is available to everybody, where we look at food and we say, how can this food nourish me? How can this food make me feel vibrant? And it's from that place that we learn to truly thrive. So I guess we're going to transition into some questions. That's basically what we had to share with you today. To learn more about our programs, you can visit consciouscleanse.com, and we'll do some book signing after we open it up, if anybody has any questions for us.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been facilitating the cleanse, the program, before the book or whatever?
In total, we've probably been doing it about 3 years. Yeah, and the book we wrote last January. So about a year ago, we started writing the book.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And in case you haven't seen the book is a step-by-step guide. It'll take you through the program with a lot of inspiration, a lot of back history about the food demons that we were talking about, like gluten and dairy and sugar, and why they are sabotaging our health, as well as a lot of daily tips and a lot of success stories and inspiration as well.
And lots of recipes, don't
And
forget.
over 100 recipes as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How often do you recommend doing this cleanse?
We say, it cleanse the body with the seasons is a great way to look at it. Minimum once a year. But then, up to maybe 3 times a year. We actually have a principle that we read in Marissa's story. We have a principle called the 80-20. And the 80-20 says, live the conscious cleanse way 80% of the time. 20% go nuts. Have whatever foods in whatever combination that you want. And that's a great way to maintain that vibrancy that we talk about. So that, we say, we're going to hook you with 2 weeks. We're going to hook you with this idea that this is a cleanse for 2 weeks. But once you see the benefits, you'll go, how can I maintain this without feeling restricted and without feeling like, you're really missing out on those foods that you love and that you celebrate with.
Yeah, so is there a maintenance program, so to speak, after you get through this initial 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's really the idea of the 80-20. Do you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so during the cleanse, you'll take foods out of your diet, and then you'll reintroduce foods in a very kind of systematic way. You'll figure out what foods may be causing the problems. And then after that, you could say, I know I feel this way when I eat gluten, so I'm never going to eat it again, because these are the effects. Like for me, when I eat gluten, I feel so terrible that I would never eat it. But there might be other things that I do like. I like to have a drink now and again. I like to, have some things that sometimes have sugar in them. So what would it be like is some people, Monday through Friday, for instance, we've had participants say, for 5 days of the week after the cleanse, or when I'm maintaining, I'm going to eat the conscious cleanse way. And then for the weekend, I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to have a glass of wine.
Do you have suggestions for maintenance?
All of this, like our whole last third of the book is all about how to live this as a lifestyle.
Well, the reason I mention it, a lot of the things that, like, for example, chronic pain, other things is you probably have a lot of benefit for, like diabetes or hypertension or psychological things,
Yeah.
as you were talking about. And one of my interests is addictions, which is sort of the crossroad of just about all diseases.
Yeah.
It's there. If, either you became addicted because of it, like you could have very easily gone that path and become an opiate addict.
Right.
Or you can, by using these substances, you can have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, have you had any clinical experience? In other words, like maintaining blood sugars or reduction of blood pressures or being able to give up?
We haven't, us particularly, done any trials or studies, so to speak, but we've had people who have come into the cleanse before, get their cholesterol tested, for instance, and then later took their cholesterol and it was 75 points lower and didn't have to do cholesterol-lowering medication. So we've had more of those kind of anecdotal, but still like they've gone to their doctor to have certain levels checked. And that has made a difference. People on medications, antidepressants, and who were, with their doctor's help, able to kind of wean themselves off and not need them. So, yes.
So chronic pain, how are you doing now, for example? You went from an 8 to a 5?
I went from an
initially
8 to a 5, and I'm probably at a 3 now.
Okay.
Yeah, so considering what I've been through, my pain levels, and they continue to get better. That's the really cool thing, is that I continue to heal. So the more that I do this and the more that I live this way, the better that I feel. So my expectation is I'm going to continue to feel even better.
I suspect if you add something that you know right away that your pain level, it's sort of a barometer for you.
It's my best and my worst thing, right, that's happened, because I have to live a healthy life.
Yeah.
And when I'm out of whack, where I put something in my body, I notice
Well,
it
it's
right away.
self-reinforcing. One of my interests is, diabetes. I've been diabetic for almost 30 years. And anyway, so I came, actually, the movie, you ever seen the movie Forks Over Knives? Okay. So anyway, my son showed me that. So I got, I sort of gravitated more toward vegan living anyway, but I became very strict that way and gave up a few things like dairy, for example.
Right.
And wow, and I very closely monitor blood sugars and things. I guess wow is amazing because normalized my blood sugar, stabilized it as well. I mean, you don't see peaks and valleys. It's pretty not only normal but stable.
Yeah.
Which is, I would suspect you probably have some anecdotal things along that regard.
Definitely.
The other thing is, I would think this would work really well in addiction, people that do have any issues. So, because a lot of them are nutritionally poor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have had
as
people
well as all the
experiences
other
with that.
stuff that you were sort of talking about.
Yeah.
So, any anecdotal experience with? I was an addictions counselor, so.
I mean, we've had people who've gone to rehab and worked with, when they do more sugar and caffeine because they come off the, the pain pills and the other narcotics, and people who've done this program nutritionally, and that has really helped their process. So they're not going from one, addiction to another, essentially, because you can go off one narcotics and then you can go to food, and that's what I did. I didn't use pain pills initially, but I used food to numb myself out right after my accident. So yeah, we have had people anecdotally.
We also do a lot of someone called it we food shrink people, which is that that's I'm kind of being silly when I say that, but we do a lot of work on. We say food is never just about food, so we do a lot of personal work on answering that question. If it's not about food, what is it? And do that deep
Here you're
personal
also
work as
yoga
well.
instructors or other. So exercise is really important. Is that part of the book, or it's just a nice adjunct to it?
It's a nice adjunct to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
When will you guys start taking insurance?
From the doctor.
Yeah, you have to go talk to your doctor friends and ask them. This is a first-year resident right here in the second row. She's heckling us a bit, yeah. But we hope so. That would be a dream, right? That this starts to become prevention and that healthcare starts paying for this, because this is really something we feel that every single person should go through.
It's really an education on how to eat. We have a lot of people. Actually, someone just recently said, I've been looking for this my whole life. I think she's in her late 60s, and she's had a lot of battles with food and eating disorders, and that she said she's, healed, but she said, this is teaching me how to eat, and I never learned how to eat and to look at food really as a way to nourish the body as opposed to, punish the body or withhold or something that you just have to do to get done. Anybody else? Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and I guess we'll sign some books.
Yeah.
So just to sign the books, we just come around the mystery section and the science fiction section, and then we'll line up over here.